Hello everybody, welcome back to No Review Playthrough with Ryan. Today I just realized or found out that there's a little bit of a balance errata or fixed to some of the characters from Dice Throne, which is kind of surprising in a way and sometimes not. So they redid Nera, the Tactician, and the Vampire, and haven't had a whole lot of experience with the Vampire, but the other two we've had quite a bit, and we never felt that Nera was doing very well, so this kind of makes a little bit of sense. So I'll put a link to the description. Actually, it comes from the Kickstarter from the Santa Krampus new Kickstarter they're doing. Just happened to be scrolling through and saw this, and so I'll put a link to that, and you can download a PDF of the new leaflets, but I've taken some screenshots, and let's go ahead and discuss some of the changes that we have at this point. Okay, so let's take a look at Nera here and some of the changes. So the first thing here is that they removed the 7 health bullet. I think that's because the dial only goes up to 7, so they probably felt that that was kind of redundant. The next thing is about how Nera is used. There's really no change to how Nera is used. As far as she can take all the damage and whatnot. The one thing that they did change and is added, as you can see, it says you can now use your defensive roll, and I think that's a very good change. I think that was, now that I'm looking back, that's probably one of the weaknesses of this ability is that, yeah, it seems like she could be a bullet sponge and take a bunch of damage, but at the same time, you didn't have a chance to do anything back. Where on most characters, you can do something back on every turn. So I think that's still a really good change for that you can use your defensive roll. That kind of makes sense. Next, still do 2 damage if Myra's active. There's no change there. So now this is a new ability. It says when Nera is active, you may deal 1 damage to have her re-roll a die. Only once per turn. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do that 1,000 times. So I guess that's kind of a good change there. You can decide, obviously, if you want to deal 1 damage to Nera and do some re-rolling, or at least once. So that's not too bad. That's kind of like a Magic the Gathering type thing. Do some damage to yourself to get an advantage. So that's all we have for Nera herself. Okay, next we have Nera's Bond. Really no change here, even though it looks like it. If you were to compare the two back to back, it looks like there's a big change. But if you look at it, it's just kind of reworded. Nothing has really changed. I think they just kind of simplified some of the wording, make it a little bit more clear, a little bit more understandable. And finally, we have the bleed status effect. I'm not surprised there's really no change here because there are quite a few characters that use the bleed effect, and so if you were to change this one, you would have to definitely change it on all the others. And so finally here's the complete leaflet. I'm just going to slowly scroll this down. You can definitely pause the video at any point here and look at your own leaflet if you would like to compare the two and see what has changed a little bit. Hopefully my description was able to take care of that for you. So nothing too big. A lot of it just with how Nera interacts itself, especially the defensive ability. And let's take a look at the next one. Okay, next we have the Tactician, and his big change, or one of the big changes for him, is he starts out now with 2 tactical advantages before he starts the game. I think much like the Artificer, where he starts out with a few tokens, I think this is a good change. Not too overpowered. He doesn't have a whole bunch, just enough to get him a little started. Maybe on turn 1 or 2, you could start using some of those abilities. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of the changes that happened to his tactical advantage token usage. So he has the stack limit of 5. So on the first token, we still gain a CP. On the second 1 token, you may re-roll a dice, so those haven't changed at all. For 3 tokens, you still get to draw a card. And for another 3 tokens, you can inflict targeted on a chosen opponent, so those have all stayed the same. However, on 4 tokens, where you're able to gain protect, before the old version said just gain protect, so you could only put that on yourself. So the new version, if you spend 4 tokens, you can put or give protect to a chosen player. I'm sure that was added for Dice Throne Adventures and co-op play. So now you can select which player you want to give that to, instead of before you would just gain it for yourself. And then for the last one, 4 tokens, transfer 1 status effect from any player to any. No change on that one. That has remained the same. Okay, there is a slight change to constrict. Before, it said a player afflicted with this token gets 1 fewer roll attempts during their next offensive roll, so meaning they would only get to roll 2. So it'd say a player inflicted with this gets 1 fewer, so you'd only get 2 re-rolls on that one. And that said this could be reacquired at any time for 1 CP, so you could get your full 3 rolls if you spend a CP. So now the new one is you have to pay once for everything after your first roll. So you can only basically get 1 roll, and then you must pay a CP for every one you want after that. So it could cost you a total of 2 CP to do all 3 of your rolls for that turn. Targeted, there's no change, and also during protect, these 3 I don't think, and again, they can really change this without changing all of the characters. So these are pretty much the same as what we had from before. And finally, we'll just go through here and scroll down through his entire leaflet, so you can look and maybe pause the video and compare it to his other old abilities. Again, with most of these, I'm glad they didn't make major changes, so you could still play with the old one, or if you had no idea, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but hopefully that changes these up a little bit. Alright, let's take a look then at blood power for the vampire. So the first thing is we went from a stack of 4 blood tokens. We didn't get an increase of that from 4 to 5 on this one. Alright, so let's take a look at our extra. So for 1 token, before, if we spend that during the offensive roll phase, we could add 2 damage, making it count as an attack modifier. So that went from 2, now we have 3 damage, so we've got a little bit of extra damage when we use that token as an attack modifier. For 2 tokens, it says you may remove 1 status effect from yourself. That was the old one. It looks like they've just added to make sure you only do that during the main phase, that you don't do that at any time that you want to. 3 tokens have changed a little bit. Before it was draw 2, then discard any card from your hand. Now it's just straight up draw 2, so that's definitely a good advantage. You get to keep whatever you draw. And 4 tokens, just a little bit of clarification. Before it just said heal equal to the amount of damage you successfully dealt this roll. Now it says heal equal to the amount of damage your attack successfully dealt. So before, maybe that meant that if you just did like a straight up damage attack, like I'm not sure if the vampire, again, I'm not real familiar, I haven't played as much with the vampire, but it sounds like you obviously now have to do an attack roll and deal damage before you get that effect. And then now there's a completely new added ability. I'm not sure why it's not a bullet point, but now after you attack successfully and you deal damage to an opponent, if they have 2 bleed tokens, then you can get blood power at the conclusion of your turn. That's probably to allow the Vampire Lord to get more blood tokens. If I remember correctly, it was a little hard to get blood tokens on a normal basis, so this helps, because bleed was quite easy to get with the vampire, but now getting blood tokens or blood power because of the bleed should help out that quite a bit. And now finally on to Mesmerize. I feel that they really couldn't change this. I think this is the only character that uses this one, so they may have been able to change this without it affecting the game too much. But I think they just used in Dice Throne Adventure, so I think they had to leave that one. And then we have Bleed, which is also left the same because it's used by multiple characters, so we had to leave it from there. And finally, here is the entire leaflet for the vampire. So hopefully this gave you a little insight to some of the changes. Whether you want to incorporate them or not, obviously, is up to you. I'm actually surprised that they haven't done more up to this point. I was pretty surprised with the 16 characters so far. They're all pretty well balanced, but Nera was definitely one that we felt was underpowered. We really struggled making her work. And again, the vampire is relatively new, and the Tactician was doing okay, but I think he's got a little bit better chance now. So hopefully this helped you out. Again, I'll leave links to where you can download the PDF. You can double check this out for yourself, and I hope you have a great day, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.